E-scooter rentals, they're coming to Hamilton in just a few weeks. It's a really fun way to get around, but they do come with a risk of injury and accidents. Nainesh Kotak from Kotak Law joins us now with more. Good morning.
Good morning.
So the problem is people who own an e-scooter kind of know, for the most part, the safety aspects of it, what you can and what you can't do.
Right.
Problem is with rentals, you could get hurt.
Yeah.
And you have to read the waiver, and you've read the waiver.
Yes. Yeah, so, you know, Ontario began this pilot project for e-scooters back in January of 2020. I know the city of Hamilton got on board later in 2020 to allow e-scooter, you know, those who own the e-scooter and go ahead and ride with certain restrictions, 24-kilometer-an-hour speed restriction, helmet for those under the age of 16. So now, many cities, and including now Hamilton, beginning in, I think it's April 3rd, are going to allow rental scooters, good and bad. So some of the good things are obviously, it's a green way to get around for sure. And
it's fun.
And they geofence. In other words, you're not really supposed to go on the sidewalk with these e-scooters. So what the rental companies, and I believe it's Bird here, you know, if you go on the sidewalk, there'll be a noise that alerts people, and it'll slow you down and ultimately stop. So that's a good thing that you can actually control where the e-scooter goes. Some of the issues and the problems, though, many people who may ride them will not be experienced. There are waivers in these agreements, very strong waivers, where you're not able to claim. You're not supposed to be able to claim for your own injuries if it's caused by you on the scooter, for example. Additionally, you know, Bird and whatever companies involved will have their own insurance to cover themselves. So you have to look at what's going to happen if someone riding an e-scooter, they get injured on their own. Well, it's not an automobile provincially, so you wouldn't be covered under your auto insurance for no-fault benefits unless you're involved in a collision with a motor vehicle. And in terms of your own liability, if you hit somebody, who will protect you on that? You know, you can look to the rental company insurance, but they have an indemnification clause and a waiver. So maybe you have to look to home insurance. But if you don't have home insurance, you may not be covered if you injure somebody else while riding an e-scooter. Some other interesting concepts, even though provincially e-scooters are not looked as motor vehicles, under the criminal code, they're looked as really what they call them a conveyancer. And in fact, you could be charged with impaired driving if you're impaired and while operating an e-scooter. So there's some of these little pitfalls that you really got to watch out for. I think it's a great thing, but our stats are showing in every city where e-scooters are allowed, you've got obviously head injuries. The stats show the more e-scooters, the more of this is happening. Upper extremity injuries, lower extremity injuries. So I think people need to be very, very careful. Obviously, riding these, it's fine. You know, saves the environment to a certain extent, obviously, but just be careful. Read the waivers. Make sure that you know that you have some insurance coverage in case you're hurt or in case you hurt somebody else.
Yeah, and how do you, if you don't have home insurance
Right.
or you don't have car insurance, how do you protect yourself?
There are a couple of insurance companies in Canada, I think in Ontario, that will provide insurance specifically for e-scooters. I don't think they're very expensive. I think you may be less than $200 a year if you own one. The issue is for the renters, though, because where would you be covered there? Hopefully under the rental company's insurance, although their waiver seems to exempt them from protecting you for that.
Okay.
So you've got that dichotomy, and it's something that I think that sort of a city should get involved with and really figure out where the coverage is going to be, and are these waivers actually quite fair or not?
Okay. Always a good idea to read the waiver. Great advice, Nainesh. Thanks very much. We'll get your social media links up on our website, chch.com/morninglive.
Thanks for having me.